Dubowitz. He joins me as the CEO and founder of the foundations, or the CEO for the Foundations for the Defense of Democracies. Mark, thanks for joining us this afternoon.
Thank you, Rich.
We were going to talk about a whole list of foreign policy issues. What's going on here?
Yeah, Rich, big deal. I mean, Raisi, as Trey said, was really slotted to become the next supreme leader when Ali Khamenei was to part the scene. So now it's going to set up a big potential succession crisis. The supreme leader has tapped probably his son as the successor. And Raisi is certainly not being mourned by the majority of Iranians. He's known as the butcher of Tehran, responsible for the deaths and execution of thousands of Iranians. So I think there's a lot of celebrations going on in Iran and in the Iranian diaspora and amongst many people following this story.
And this regime has faced protests, right?
This regime has faced mass protests. I mean, beginning back in 2009, millions of Iranians were on the streets yelling death to the dictator. Then you saw protests 2017 all the way to 2023, the Women Life Freedom protests. And this guy, Raisi, I mean, he'd been responsible for putting to death thousands of protesters and dissidents over the years, including back in 2009. In 2019, again, he was the hanging judge. He was on a death commission that put these poor Iranians to death, electrocuted people, raped, tortured. I mean, he's a brutal man, or was a brutal man.
You know, very often when bad things or certain things happen in regimes like this, there's a quick reaction to blame the United States, to blame Israel in this case. Do you expect that to happen here?
That's already happening on social media. I mean, I think the regime is scrambling. They don't want to admit that this was a question of incompetence or improper maintenance of this helicopter. So blaming the United States and Israel fits perfectly within their conspiratorial playbook.
If this is a conspiratorial playbook, beyond that, would Iran physically respond here, or is this just simply propaganda purposes?
Well, there's always a chance they'll physically respond in order to distract the attention of their population. But now they're going to have to go through another election or selection, because these things are fraudulent. So there'll be a selection of another Iranian president, and that'll take 6-7 weeks for them to run through this process. But at the end of the day, I mean, Raisi was the president, but the real important power is the supreme leader, is the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps. They control the national security of the country, and I don't think they'll be missing a step in their brutal campaign across the Middle East.
So Israel is fighting Iran-backed Hamas, Iran-backed Hezbollah. Minister Benny Gantz has threatened to leave the war cabinet if Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu doesn't develop what he defines as a long-term plan for Gaza. What does that do to the Israeli cabinet and the war effort there?
Well, I think Benny Gantz has finally reached the point of utter frustration, where he has asked the Prime Minister repeatedly for a day after plan, right? After they finished demolishing the remaining battalions in Rafah and Gaza, what is the day after plan with respect to governance? Because obviously Israeli soldiers have fought bravely over the past 7 months, and they've demolished much of Hamas's infrastructure, but then there's going to be a power vacuum. And I think Prime Minister Netanyahu has been very reluctant to make any decisions on the day after, because he fears that that'll bring down his government, because there are members of his government who don't want to talk about any day after, and certainly no role for the Palestinian Authority or any Palestinian governance. So Gantz has really put the Prime Minister to the test now.
What do you think happens in Gaza after the Israeli military operation is concluded?
I think at the military level, I mean, the Israelis are going to have to continue to operate in and out of Gaza for months and years to come. I think they certainly don't want to militarily occupy Gaza, but then there's the political question of what happens in terms of reconstruction, in terms of de-radicalization of Gaza and the Gazan population, and where do we go from there? And I think there's overwhelming opposition in Israel to any kind of independent Palestinian state, because I think the majority of them realize it'll be a terrorist state backed by Iran. And this is why it's important what's going on in Tehran as well. I mean, the ultimate answer to this, Rich, is the end of the Islamic Republic of Iran. And if this Raisi death leads to a series of events, to a succession crisis, that may change the Middle East for the better.
All right. Mark Dubowitz, President, CEO of Foundation for Defense of Democracies. Thanks for joining us.